Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Rosie, and thanks for joining me on Elevate and Glow. Why do boundaries feel so uncomfortable for so many people? Why does saying no sometimes come with guilt, anxiety, or fear? For people who've spent many years keeping the peace, meeting everyone's expectations, or avoiding conflict, boundaries can feel almost unnatural. But boundaries are not punishment. They are protection. And today, we're talking about the quiet power of emotional boundaries. Welcome back to Roots and Wings. Today's episode is called The Quiet Power of Emotional Boundaries. Because boundaries are one of the most important skills we can develop for emotional health, self-respect, and healthy relationships. Many people think boundaries are about controlling others. They're not. Boundaries are about defining what is and isn't acceptable for you. They communicate your limits, your needs, and your values. But if you grew up in environments where your needs were ignored, dismissed, or treated as inconvenient, setting boundaries can feel deeply uncomfortable. You may worry that people will be angry, that they'll leave, that you'll be seen as selfish or difficult. So instead, you overextend yourself. You say yes when you mean no. You tolerate behavior that hurts you. You prioritize everyone else's discomfort. You prioritize everyone else's comfort while quietly sacrificing your own. At first, this may seem easier, but over time, the cost becomes clear. Resentment grows, exhaustion grows, emotional disconnection grows. Because every time you ignore your own limits, you send yourself the message that your needs matter less. I used to think boundaries were harsh. I thought being a good person meant being endlessly available. What I eventually learned is that healthy relationships don't require constant self-abandonment. In fact, boundaries often improve relationships because they create clarity. They reduce resentment. They allow connection to happen without hidden frustration. Boundaries can sound like, I'm not available for that conversation right now. I need some time to think before I respond. I'm unable to take on additional responsibilities at the moment. That behavior isn't okay with me. Notice that boundaries don't attack, shame, or control. They simply communicate a limit. And one of the most important lessons in boundary work is this: you are not responsible for managing everyone else's reaction to your limits. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries may resist your new ones. That doesn't mean your boundaries are wrong. It means the dynamic is changing. Healthy people may not always like your boundaries, but they will respect them. Unhealthy people often see boundaries as obstacles because they were accustomed to unrestricted access to your time, energy, or emotions. Setting boundaries is not about becoming less caring. It's about caring for yourself enough to recognize that your emotional resources are finite. You cannot pour endlessly from an empty cup. You cannot maintain genuine connection while constantly overriding your own needs. And the beautiful thing about boundaries is that they create space for healthier relationships to grow. Relationships built on mutual respect, honesty, and consideration tend to become strong when clear boundaries are present. Because boundaries are not walls, they're gates. They allow you to choose what enters your life and what does not. If setting boundaries feels difficult, start small. Practice honoring your own limits in everyday situations. Remember that saying no to what drains you often means saying yes to what sustains you. And your needs do not become invalid simply because someone else is disappointed. Thanks for listening to Roots and Wings. And remember, roots grow deeper when they are protected, and wings grow stronger when they are not weighed down by constant self-abandonment. Until next time, elevate and glow.